Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be drafting Forgotten Realms. This is the Dungeons and Dragons based Magic the Gathering set. It is the quick draft format up until February 25th. So without further ado, let's check out what is in our pack. See what we can't, pick one, pack one. So if you've played the format before, then you will know that there is a pretty hefty color imbalance between the best colors and the worst colors in the set. Red and black tended to be the most powerful colors and the most powerful archetype by far. They just have some of the cheapest, most aggressive creatures, some of the cheapest, most efficient removal, and they are the only color pair that has access to a lot of treasure token production, which even makes them the best color pair at splashing, best color pair at dumping their hand out just really quickly. So Rakdos is really where you want to be if you see some good Rakdos cards in your pack. Unfortunately, that's just the way of life in this format. Sometimes you gotta try a little bit to force that color pair. The weakest colors, I believe they tended to be like blue and green. They were a little middle of the road, a little lackluster. They had some of the worst removal, some of the slowest cards in general, and you definitely needed to have some cards that get out early game to just defend yourself against the Rakdos decks at the very least. So with that being said, we do see some pretty sweet Rakdos cards in this pack, and as such, we're pretty likely to take one of those between the Forsworn Paladin and the Rust Monster. So the great thing about the Rust Monster is it can eat all of your treasure tokens to get a bunch of extra power. It can even just threaten to eat one to make it so your opponent basically never blocks this if you have a couple treasures out, even if you're not intending to sacrifice them to the Rust Monster. And so Rust Monster is pretty sweet. And then Forsworn Paladin, it's definitely a little bit of a slower card. It is a 1-mana 1/1 menace, which is pretty sweet, but you do have to dump some mana into it to do stuff. You can dump some mana into it to create treasure tokens. You can dump some mana into it to give creatures +2/+0 till end of turn. I think I'm going to take Forsworn Paladin because it does still seem like a pretty sweet card. It's also a rare, so we'll get some gems just from drafting it since I do have 4 in my collection. And yeah, I do think Rust Monster is quite good, but we'll go with the sweet rare here. See if that works any better for us. And we could just take a Rust Monster here, but Grim Bounty is one of the best removal spells in the whole set, especially at common. It's only 4 mana to destroy any creature, planeswalker, and create a treasure token. The treasure token very useful in the Rakdos decks. I'm going to take the Grim Bounty here. This also ties us to just black, so if red gets cut later on, we can end up in black, white, black, blue, black, green, anything like that. Pretty happy to take the Grim Bounty here. Now, what do we got? We've got some pretty solid red cards. Swarming Goblins, just a lot of power toughness for its mana cost. And Hoarding Ogre, which can spit out a lot of treasure tokens to use throughout the game. We also have another pretty good black card here, the Grim Wanderer. 2 mana for a 5/3 with Flash is an incredible deal. However, you have to have had a creature die in order to cast it. So you can't cast it unless something's traded off or chump blocked or been shot down by a removal spell. That being said, I still think the Grim Wanderer is pretty good, and I might just take it here because again, we would keep ourselves tied to exclusively black. I do like both of these red cards a decent bit, but Grim Wanderer is pretty sweet too, and we can stick to monocolor for now. Ooh, Sepulchre Ghoul is a really nice pickup if you're intending to go down the Rakdos route. There are some cards that will steal your opponent's creatures temporarily, so you can steal your opponent's creature, attack in with Sepulchre Ghoul and their creature, and then sacrifice their creature before you give it back to them to just permanently kill it. One of these sweet combos in the set. There's also Precipitous Drop, which is pretty great removal. It doesn't kill everything. It only gives -2/2 until you complete a dungeon, which basically means venture into the dungeon is you use the first room ability. So if you venture, the first time you venture, you're going into the cave entrance here on Lost Mine of Phandelver. The next time you choose between Goblin Lair and Mine Tunnels. So if you venture enough, which on Lost Mine of Phandelver would be 4 times, then you'll have completed a dungeon, in which case this will give -5/-5. So that's a very rare occurrence unless you're a dedicated dungeon delving deck. So this is kind of just 3 mana -2/2 scry 1 most of the time, but that's a pretty good deal. That being said, I don't think it's a good enough deal to take over Sepulchre Ghoul just because of how many good synergies and combos there are for this card in the format. So now we are kind of out of black cards to take. Thieves' Tools is fine. There are some decent combos, even in mono black for this card. If you don't have like any combos with it, it's just okay. I suppose it does synergize well with Forsworn Paladin. We can make something unblockable after our opponent has decided they're not blocking. We can then dump a bunch of mana to give it a bunch of extra power, find a way to kill our opponent out of nowhere. So that's a pretty nice combo. The other combos available in black are, there's a 2 mana 1/3 that gives you a treasure token every time you deal damage to your opponent. So you slap this onto that, you can just keep recurring those treasure tokens, make sure you're consistently getting those. So that's pretty nice. So we could take Thieves' Tools here. That being said, there's some off-color cards that I think are pretty good. Soul Knife Spy is really nice. If you can get any attacks in with this, if you can get a single attack in, it's a good deal. 3 mana for a 3/2. When it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And then in white, we have some decent cards. Delver's Torch gives you a lot of value throughout the game. A little bit slow, quite a bit of an equip cost, but pretty nice if the game goes long. And then you hear something on watch is just a solid defensive removal spell, with a little bit of flexibility if you don't need that. So, decent white cards, decent blue, or the Thieves' Tools to just stick to black. You know what, I'm actually going to take the Thieves' Tools here. Might be overvaluing or undervaluing this a bit, but I didn't consider it. Also gives us the treasure token when we play it. It's just a pretty decent rate, I think. And I'm pretty happy to take Check for Traps here. This is one of the better kind of discard spells. I don't usually like running discard spells like Mind Rot, where my opponent chooses what they discard. And generally, because they're really bad top decks late game, this still runs into that problem where it's a really bad draw in the late game. But it's quite good in the early game, because it's kind of like a 2 mana sorcery. You pull the best card out of their hand and exile it. So it's kind of like 2 mana sorcery speed removal for whatever big creature they're going to play later, if you can draw it before turn 5 or something like that. So I do like Check for Traps a decent bit. And it can also pull out removal from your opponent's hand to make sure they're not just demolishing everything you're playing. So some pretty solid cards off color here again. I think Baleful Beholder and Eyes of the Beholder, they're both fine. Like, you could throw them in a deck, but certainly not super excited about them. They'll probably get cut by the end of the draft. That being said, we see some really great aggressive creatures in white. Steadfast Paladin, 2 mana 2/2 lifelinker, makes it really hard for your opponent to race you. And Doorfold Champion, 2 mana for a 3/1. If you have some equipment, it can even be a 2 mana 3/3, which is insane. And then Air Cult Elemental is a nice late game creature. Just really stabilizes you, putting a high toughness flyer down and bouncing one of their cards. I think I'm just going to go with Steadfast Paladin here, because we would like to be a more aggressive kind of strategy generally in this format. So yeah, I like Steadfast Paladin here. It also works really well with Thieves' Tools. It's going to be really hard to race an unblockable 2/2 lifelinker. Just a consistent 4-point life swing every turn in that sense. So another Eyes of the Beholder, a Half-Elf Monk, or Dawnbringer Cleric. Don't love Half-Elf Monk, it always felt a bit slow to me. But I do like Dawnbringer Cleric a decent bit, just since it is main deckable enchantment removal or graveyard hate. So if you end up playing a matchup where your opponent has a good enchantment or has good graveyard synergies, then it's always nice that you have this enter the battlefield effect at your disposal. And if you're not, still a 2 mana 1/3 and you gain 2 life, not the end of the world. So just like that for being a flexible card. Alright, I definitely like Vampire Spawn here. There are some cards in white that will combo off of life gain. I like the Celestial Unicorn that gets a +1/+1 counter whenever you gain life, so the Vampire Spawn will work well with those, as well as just being a really good rate in the format. There's a lot of 2 mana 2/2s with decent abilities, so just having a 3 mana 2/3 to get on the board, block them, stop your opponent's assault, while also draining them life, has just been a pretty nice deal. And another Vampire Spawn here, pretty happy with that. And now we can take a Feign Death. Not a card I'd run a lot of, but I'd definitely slap one copy into whatever deck, especially if you have some good enter the battlefield effects to redo. And then we also have Gloomstalker. Really only want to run this card if you can consistently complete dungeons, which we're definitely not there yet. However, white-black, the primary strategy for that color pair is dungeon delving, trying to complete a lot of dungeons. That's what all the multicolored white-black cards do in this format. That being said, I think this card's just too inconsistent. Just very rarely do you complete dungeons, so I'm just going to take Feign Death. Well, now we can take a Ranger's Hawk and attempt to complete some dungeons, and if not, it's still a 1-mana 1/1 flyer. And we can always cut it. Divine Smite for the sideboard, even though we're playing best of 1. And +2 Mace is not a bad pickup. This is not a bad card. 2 mana for an equipment that costs 3 to equip, but it gives +2/+2. That's going to make your creatures, your 2 mana creatures, as big as most 4 or 5 mana creatures, your 2/2s or 4/4s now. So really nice equipment, even if it is a bit of a mana commitment. So here it's probably going to be the Dancing Sword, just a great equipment. 2 mana to play it and 1 mana to equip to give equipped creature +2/+1. And when the equipped creature dies, you can turn this sword into a 2/1 flying construct with ward 1. It's just a pretty good deal all around. Really fun, rare too, pretty flavorful. If this weren't in the pack, I'd pretty easily take Cloister Gargoyle. I like this card quite a lot. 3 mana 0/4 ventures into the dungeon when it enters the battlefield, and in this color pair, we can put some work into potentially completing a dungeon, but even if you don't, it's a solid deal, solid blocker there, venturing in the 1 time. But that would definitely start taking us down the path where we'd want to scoop up a lot of venture into the dungeon cards. So yeah, Dancing Sword, just the slightly stronger card as it is the powerful rare there. Wow, some excellent stuff here. We see a Steadfast Paladin, we see a Sepulchre Ghoul, a Vampire Spawn, even a Deadly Dispute being pretty sweet. Sacrifice a treasure token to draw 2 and create another treasure, or you can just sacrifice a creature in response to a removal spell from your opponent. It's pretty good as well. Wow, we have a lot of 2 mana stuff. Let's go ahead and sort our non-creature stuff out so we can see how many 2 mana creatures we actually have. That's 2 mana equipment, that's removal. Actually have a really good curve of aggressive creatures. I was going to say, I'd love to scoop up another Steadfast Paladin here just to have a great aggressive curve, but we already kind of have that. Could take a 3rd Vampire Spawn, but these cards seem to be not being picked up by the bots very highly, so we'll take that later, I guess. So Sepulchre Ghoul, Steadfast Paladin for a great 2-drop creature, or just Deadly Dispute. I guess Dawnbringer Cleric doesn't make a ton of sense here, and Grim Wanderer is not really a 2-drop. We have to wait to play that till later. So yeah, we can still definitely use more good 2-mana creatures. Since we're not Rakdos, I think I actually am going to prefer Steadfast Paladin over the Sepulchre Ghoul. Ooh, and now we've got a pretty excellent removal spell, the Minimus Containment, 3 mana for an aura that turns any non-land permanents into a treasure token. It does give your opponent a mana when you use your removal spell on their card, but it's still definitely worth it for only 3. Yuan-Ti Fangblade's interesting. Really nice if you can hit your opponent with this, and Thieves' Tools helps us do that. Along with it being a Death Toucher, so if our opponent has creatures they don't want to trade into it, it can get in pretty easily. But then there's just another Steadfast Paladin, which is excellent, especially with equipment like the +2 Mace, Dancing Sword, and Thieves' Tools. So the Fangblade or the Steadfast Paladin, what do we want more here? I think I'm just going to slam a mountain of Steadfast Paladins. Drider is a card that always looks good, and I've had it be good for my opponents. It's just not a card I tend to run because it always just feels like it doesn't work out for me. I'll play this card for 5 mana, and they'll just have like a 3 mana 3/3 on board, and I can't attack in because of that. Or I'll play this for 5, and they'll play some 2 mana 3 damage removal spell. It just always feels like I'm getting the bad end of the deal when I play Drider. Even though it does so much work if you can hit your opponent with it, I just don't think I've ever connected with that card. So another Thieves' Tools, don't think I want to run multiples. There's Horde Robber to combo with it, but I think we have better 2-drops. There's Dwarfhold Champion, we do have some equipment to combo with this, that'd be pretty sweet. And there's Rave Enfeeblement, which is a fine combat trick kind of card in any matchup, and just a full-on removal spell against white decks. I think I like Rave Enfeeblement here. It seems like just a really good deal. Only 1 mana. Yeah, I'm going to pick up the Ray. What do we have now? Pick 6. Don't really have anything at the top end of the curve. I kind of like trying out a Devoted Paladin here. Give your whole field +1/+1 and Vigilance when it enters the battlefield. Pretty good curve topper, I think. The Beholder is a pretty good curve topper as well. Give your whole field Menace when it drops onto the board. Or if your opponent has a good enchantment out, blow it up. But I think I'd rather go for the slightly cheaper one, the Devoted Paladin here. Alright, Shambling Ghast is a pretty great one-drop, even sees constructed play. It's going to be especially good with our Sepulchre Ghoul, so we can sacrifice it whenever we want. And I definitely like it more than Spiked Pit Trap or Thieves' Tools, because we just have better removal being in white-black. We have Minimus Containment, Grim Bounty, Rave Enfeeblement. We don't need a Spiked Pit Trap. And again, we already have one Thieves' Tools that I'm not 100% sure about, so I don't really want to slap in a million of them. Alright, another Shambling Ghast here. I suppose we could take Dawnbringer Cleric instead, but already slightly considering cutting the Cleric to try to get more 2-power or 3-power 2-mana creatures in the deck. Alright, we wield a Cloister Gargoyle. I'm pretty happy with that. I am going to take that over Delver's Torch. We can't really have like 5 or 6 equipment. I don't tend to run too many of them because the more equipment you have, the more likely you are to have really awkward hands where either you have a bunch of equipment with no creatures to equip them to, or you just have multiple equipment on board and just don't have enough mana to spend all the equip costs because they all equip for like 2-3 mana plus. So equipment don't really stack up super well in multiples unless you have cards that really care about equipment like Brunor in this format. So I don't like to take a whole ton of them. That's why I haven't even really been mentioning. There's been a lot of extra copies of like +2 Mace as well that I've been sort of disregarding here. Alright, so pack 3 now. We see an excellent red mythic, but we can't really do that. So what else is in the pack? Moonblast Cleric seems pretty solid. 3 mana for a 3/2, search your library for an enchantment, reveal it, put it on top. So this grabs our Minimus Containment. So a 3 mana 3/2 and grab a removal spell. Seems pretty fine. Other than that, the 2 mana 3/1 that could be a 3/3 seems fine for this deck too. We've got a few equipment. And then there's like a Zombie Ogre, which can be fun. Try to get some venture value. Fate's Reversal, another venture into the dungeon, little value card. Pick up a creature and venture. So these 3 are fine. Moonblast Cleric's fine. I'll just go with the Cleric here. 4th copy of Steadfast Paladin or a Precipitous Drop. Now that we have a Moonblast Cleric, probably want to take Precipitous Drop here, just value enchantments a little higher so we have multiple options of what to grab off the Moonblast Cleric. So I think I'm going to take Precipitous Drop over the Steadfast Paladin, but that would be another great 2-drop attacker here. We do need to get a little more creatures here. We have 16 right now, and we have some mediocre ones I want to cut, like Dawnbringer Cleric and potentially Ranger's Hawk. Ooh, I love this 4-mana creature. The Arborea Pegasus, 4 mana for a 2/3 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +1/+1 and gains flying until end of turn, gets a really nice swing in the turn you play it, and just keeps a flyer on your board after that. Love Arborea Pegasus. Taking it over another Steadfast Paladin. We could have had like 7 Steadfast Paladins and just went to down if we wanted to, I guess. I don't want too many expensive things here, so I don't know if I want a Zombie Ogre now that I have a couple 4s and a 5. That being said, don't really want multiple Dawnbringer Clerics either. We have a lot of non-creature stuff. We're going to have to cut some of it, so highly doubt your Ambushed on the Road is going to make the cut in comparison to our other non-creature spells. I'll just slam a Dawnbringer Cleric in here for now. Oh no, this pack is excellent. Wow, yeah, this pack is really good. So we have 2 Dawnbringer Cleric, 3 Steadfast Paladin, 3 Vampire Spawn. That's 8 life gain cards to go with a potential Celestial Unicorn here. So that would definitely potentially get pretty big. However, there's also Minimus Containment for another excellent removal spell that's also an enchantment to draw off of Moonblast Cleric. And then there's also Plate Armor, which is just the best equipment that we've seen so far. I think it's better than our +2 Mace. It might not be better than our Dancing Sword because of like its ability to turn into a nice little cheap flyer, but it's definitely better than +2 Mace or Thieves' Tools. This is just a huge buff. +3/+3 and Ward 1. Make your 2/2s 5/5s. So Plate Armor is exceptional. Celestial Unicorn would be great here, and Minimus Containment would be great here as well. What are we really lacking the most? We have Grim Bounty, Precipitous Drop, Minimus Containment, and Ray of Enfeeblement already. Feel like we're not lacking too too massively hard on removal, as good as Minimus Containment is. At the same time, we're not lacking that hard on equipment, but we can easily take a plate armor and cut a Thieves' Tools for it. It's got 18 creatures here. So we're not really lacking on the creature count either, but we don't have any creatures that kind of become just a really big threat, so I'm a little high on Celestial Unicorn here over anything else. That feels so wrong, because generally I think Minimus Containment and Plate Armor are much better cards, but 8 life gain cards in the deck, 1 out of every 5. I guess when you put it that way, 1 out of every 5, and 5 of them only trigger 1 time. But with a Steadfast Paladin on board, Celestial Unicorn just goes off, because you're gaining the life every turn, potentially. Oh no. I'm going to take the Plate Armor. I just think it's such an absolutely massive buff on all of our random dorky creatures. So my whole reasoning there is, the reason that I was kind of leaning towards Celestial Unicorn potentially was the fact that all of my creatures are pretty dorky, pretty small, and don't really affect the game too much. So I was like, well, if we take Celestial Unicorn, then we'll have one creature that is going to be pretty big, pretty large threat our opponents kind of have to kill. But when you think about it, if we take Plate Armor, we can turn any of these small creatures that don't really matter into, yeah, a big enough threat that your opponent's actually scared of them. Even equipping this to a Shambling Ghast, we now have a 4/4 that gives something -1/-1 when it dies, so it trades into like 5/5s. So yeah, Plate Armor just to make sure all of our small creatures matter, even later in the game once we draw that Plate Armor. I think that actually is going to be a little better than Celestial Unicorn. Now, we're taking something random, I guess. Probably a Clattering Skeletons, actually. Just another kind of higher mana creature to have some more to do later game. Don't really want a third Dawnbringer Cleric. Gloomstalker doesn't do much. You hear something on Watch. Isn't great in comparison to our other removal spells. Same with Eyes of the Beholder. So yeah, Clattering Skeletons it shall be. We have a third Shambling Ghast. We only have one Sepulchre Ghoul, so I don't think Shambling Ghast is too excellent in this deck. Kind of want to just take Lightfoot Rogue here. Seems pretty nice. 2 mana for a 2/1. Whenever it attacks, it always gains Death Touch, potentially gets +1 power as well, potentially gets +3 power. First strike and Death Touch. If you're really lucky, you roll a natural 20 and you're 2 drops attacking for 5. On average, it attacks for 2.5 damage, which is still pretty good on a little Death Touching attacker. So I think I'm going to pick that up. We do get a Celestial Unicorn anyway, and now the competition is just like a Dawnbringer Cleric, Gloomstalker, Zombie Ogre, so we do still get a Celestial Unicorn, luckily. So you get to play around with that card, even if we didn't take it earlier. And I don't think I'll be playing any of these cards. I suppose we don't have like a 6-drop creature yet, so that's a possibility, but I'm not going to play 2 copies of Feign Death. Not going to play a Gloomstalker, just don't have enough Venture. Excuse me. Alright, I'm a much bigger fan of Devoted Paladin at the top end of this deck than Baleful Beholder or Zombie Ogre. So I'm just going to take a second Paladin and probably cut this Beholder. Rally Maneuver is kind of a sweet combat trick. Target creature gets +2/+0 first strike till end of turn, and another one gets +0/+2 lifelink. So if there's a big combat going on where multiple creatures are getting blocked, you can really make it in your favor. That being said, there's also Hired Hexblade, which is good if you have a lot of treasure tokens. We do have a few. We've got a couple Shambling Ghasts, a Thieves' Tools, but that's about it. I don't think we have enough to really make Hired Hexblade tick, so I'm going to take a Rally Maneuver here. Yeah, we'll take some nonsense to fill the vault. We do get another Celestial Unicorn nice and late, so I guess that was another thing to consider that I didn't even think about since I haven't drafted with the bots before, or at least not in a long time. Just wasn't sure how highly they were going to take those unicorns. So luckily for us, we just wheel them all day long. So now we get to cut 11 cards. We have 23 creatures, 11 non-creatures, which means we can cut several of each easily. Kind of want to cut Thieves' Tools and just go for the beefing our creatures up route with +2 Mace, Plate Armor, and Dancing Sword over the unblockable route. Probably cut the Dawnbringer Paladins, although they still work well with the Unicorns. But we could cut them and the Unicorns, I guess, if we start going down that route. I'll keep that in mind. I don't quite want to do it yet. Kind of think I have to cut Rally Maneuver just to make room for other stuff, but check for traps might be a little worse than Rally Maneuver. I think they're my closest cuts here. I actually kind of want to do Feign Death as well. We don't have that many enter the battlefield effects. Actually, we kind of do, don't we? We have Devoted Paladin, Arborea Pegasus, Vampire Spawn, Moonblessed Cleric, Cloister Gargoyle. That's 6 already. 2 Dawnbringer Clerics, 7. 2 Shambling Ghast have death abilities, that's 9. 9 cards that combo well with Feign Death. It is a lot, but like when you look at the other non-creature cards left in the deck, everything else is just so premium now. Ray of Enfeeblement, +2 Mace, Dancing Sword, Precipitous Drop, Plate Armor, Minimus Containment, and Grim Bounty. I feel like our non-creature suite is just awesome, and they're all like not even very situational. Feign Death is a little situational, Check for Traps is a little situational, Rally Maneuver is a little situational. I think I'm cool cutting these. 7 more cuts to go. If we cut 7 creatures, we'd have 16. Probably fine by me. Let's go with the 7 creature cut then. Not really feeling the Ranger's Hawk. Kind of want to, yeah, cut the Dawnbringer Cleric, and then if I'm cutting the Dawnbringer Clerics, we're kind of lower on the life gain theme, so we got the Unicorns too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still need to cut 2 more. Maybe a Clattering Skeletons. 1 more cut. Grim Wanderer is it's a higher on the curve than it looks. Maybe one of these Vampire Spawns? One of these Devoted Paladins? Maybe a land, actually. Probably a land. After we cut all this. Average 2.6. Tons of stuff to play on 2. Lots of good stuff to play on 3. I think we can cut a land into a 16 land version here. An even 12-12 split, so we can go nice 8 and 8. I do agree with the auto-suggestion there where it said 9-8, to where it had a little bit more black mana than white mana, just because we have cheaper black cards than white cards. All of our 1 mana cards are black, so we really want to swamp turn 1. But then it's like all even from that point up on the curve. So I'm cool with the 8-8. I don't think I want to go 9-7. Alright, that's going to be the deck. Let's get into round 1. Here we are in round 1 on the play. 1-drop creature into multiple Steadfast Paladins. Nice aggressive start for being on the play. Big fan of this hand. We even have the Grim Bounty to take down an important threat from our opponent. Opponent is on green. We've got the triple Steadfast Paladin. We're going to be gaining so much life this game. It's absolutely insane. See if we can't get to like 30 life. Turn 2 from our opponent. They are in the think tank. You find a cursed idol. It is grab a treasure token, venture into the dungeon. A little worried. They are main decking you find a cursed idol, because they could have multiples, and if they do, they are going to be pretty great against our equipment. They can exile an equipment with that, I believe. No, they can just destroy it. Either way, still going to deal with them. Now we've got a great top end to this curve. Devoted Paladin to buff the whole field, get 1 big attack in later. It should be absolutely excellent. A single 2-3 kind of walls off our aggression, doesn't it? But if we hit a land next turn, this Devoted Paladin will get us there. We could also just attack with Shambling Ghast to get our treasure token. Guarantee we get there. Alright, so we are going to pick up our treasure token here. We're all set up for a big Devoted Paladin next turn. That, or a Grim Bounty on the Sylvan Shepherd. There's two of them. Don't really think I want to do that. Trade 1 for 1 here. That's not bad. Trade one of our paladins up. Ooh, +2 Mace is excellent. So we devoted paladin here. Now we get to attack with the Sylvan Shepherd and they don't have good blocks. Plus we hold our creatures up with Vigilance. And then this +2 Mace makes sure that these paladins can keep attacking throughout this game. We just need to hit 1 more mana to play and equip it in the same turn. Then we're attacking with a 4/4 paladin and a 4/4 lifelinking steadfast paladin too. Just realized I have to specify between the steadfast paladins and the devoted paladin. Alright, so vampire spawn here, I guess. Yeah, we really don't get to attack well now, because if I attack in with the devoted paladin, they can double block and I lose my 4/4 into a single 2/3. They even do have the treasure token to buff that if they want that to be a 4/4 on blocks. So I guess vampire spawn it is. I could also go for just playing the +2 Mace so that I know even if I don't draw land next turn, I'm set up for it. But we've got a pretty wide board now and our opponent's down to 10. Very excited to drop this +2 Mace down. But ideally, awesome. I was going to say ideally, we get the mana to play it and equip it in the same turn, so that even if they have another cursed idol, they can't kill it until we've gotten 1 attack off with it. So we slap this on a vampire spawn, we have a 5/6. No, we have a 4/5. It's only +2/+2. So a 4/5, they'd have to buff the Prowler to beat it. And then we would just kill the Prowler there. Sure. I guess we could attack with both of these now. They could double block there, but then they take 4. And we kill the Prowler still. Because now we have a +2 Mace. So unless they can blow up the Mace, we know that we have more 4/4s. We don't need this devoted paladin to be the 4/4. And I don't like just slapping this onto the paladin and attacking in because, again, they can do the double block. When we're attacking with a 6/6, they double block like that, and I still only kill one of the 2 creatures. Alright, so they take the vampire spawn damage. They are down to 6. We did make it to over 30 life. We're at 34 here. So if that was the goal, we succeeded. So 4 cards in their hand now. They have 7 mana up. 6 lands and a treasure token. Black Dragon, it is excellent card, a big old 4/4 flyer, and they kill one of our Steadfast Paladins. Steadfast Paladins. Really big 2 for 1. Massive card here. Still have solid attacks with Vampire Spawn at least. The only way they kill it is a double block, and then we kill Black Dragon, and if they don't block, they go down to 2. If they just block with Shepherd, it's just a chump block. I like sending in the Paladin here. Nice, we get to kill that Black Dragon. And now Lightfoot Rogue is big enough because of Death Touch to kill anything that blocks it, whereas the Paladin is not, so we'll equip the Paladin here. Owlbear is the play from our opponent. Luckily just 4 toughness, so Steadfast Paladin still attacks in there. If we hit another Swamp for Grim Bounty, that will be beautiful. because then we can threaten to attack in without even losing a creature, just sending in the Steadfast Paladin. Nice. Get out of here, Hoot Hoot. Now that we can afford to attack and basically nearly force a chump block here, I don't think we want to send both in and lose creatures. Alright, so they are down to 2, keeping the Sylvan Shepherd on board. Purple Worm, a big old 8/7 ward. Plate Armor is the draw. Excellent draw. 3 mana to move +2 Mace over, and then we only have 3 mana left. We can't play Plate Armor and move the Mace around. Probably just Plate Armor up the Lightfoot Rogue, attack with it. They're forced to block with Purple Worm. Or just chump block. If I put the Plate Armor onto the Steadfast Paladin, I guess they're also still forced to do the same thing. So where would it be better to put it? I don't know. I think we just put it on one of them and then we move all the equipment to the other next turn. And setting Steadfast Paladin first plays around a Feign Death from our opponent, I guess. Sure, I'll use this treasure to buff up the Lightfoot Rogue so it doesn't die to a Ray of Enfeeblement. Although if they had Ray of Enfeeblement, it would have been dead already. I guess that's just in case they top deck Ray of Enfeeblement or something like that. No! A Death Toucher from our opponent. Oh no. Gotta roll that nat 20 here. Well, we're rolling a nat 20 on our draws, because now a Dancing Sword to equip to Lightfoot Rogue. When the equipped creature dies, the Dancing Sword turns into a flyer with Ward. Ooh, 18, close to the nat 20, but no cigar. Underdark Basilisk will trade for Lightfoot Rogue. But again, since we drew into the Dancing Sword, we get to activate that as a flyer. And then make it even harder to target and tougher to kill by throwing a Plate Armor on it, and hopefully that will get there. That being said, they do have more than enough mana to target it through its multiple ward triggers. They've got 9 mana down. Now they have 3 colors as well, white, black, and green. Looking through their graveyard, some kind of reanimation spell or something. Feeling pretty good about this game, even if our opponent has a removal spell for Dancing Sword. They have to play something pretty bomby to turn this in their favor. Because even if they kill the Dancing Sword, it's going to take them a really long time to kill us. Plus, any creature we top deck turns into like a 7/7 now. Yeah, I was going to say, let's not block just in case of some kind of trick. But it looks like our opponent concedes, so no trick there. So what our opponent did there, the unfortunate thing, is they cast a Long Rest to pick up X cards from their graveyard, to pick up their You Find a Cursed Idol, but unfortunately Long Rest requires triple green, so they would have needed 4 forests out in order to Long Rest and blow up the Dancing Sword with the Cursed Idol. So the very hefty mana requirement on Long Rest really coming to bite our opponent there. Round 2. Pretty great hand. Both colors, we have the double black for the Grim Bounty this time. Only 1 creature to drop down, but multiple removal spells. And we will draw into another creature. because we're the luckiest drafters on Arena. Opponents on green-white, starting with a Prosperous Innkeeper, a great card to trigger all of the life gain synergies in the color combination. Gain a life every time a creature enters the battlefield under their control. There's a Dwarfhold Champion here. The 3/1 that gets +0/+2 as long as it's equipped. And there's the +2 Mace to slap onto it. So we play a Vampire Spawn here. We'll just equip Dwarfhold Champion, get a good attack in. It'll be a 5/5. It will be a 5/5 because of its +0/+2. I think I can take a hit from that because of our life gain. So we'll take the turn casting Vampire Spawn, then we'll probably Grim Bounty after they've spent the mana to equip something onto the champion. Don't think I want to Minimus Containment. I'd rather Minimus Containment later if I can, when they don't need the treasure anymore. Use the Grim Bounty for now. Alright, and if we get rid of the Dwarfhold Champion, the Prosperous Innkeeper, the biggest that can get is a 3/3 with a +2 Mace onto it, which is much less concerning. So, should be in a good position to race here, blowing up the Dwarfhold Champion and still having a backup removal spell for their next threat. 5 mana up. With 2 cards in hand, I'd expect another creature to come down. Arborea Pegasus it is. Probably going to go ahead and remove that with Minimus Containment, otherwise it's a 4/5 flyer. Plus that way we get to attack in here and play the Lightfoot Rogue. And the Lightfoot Rogue gets to attack in even if they suit up the Prosperous Innkeeper. And then if a trade happens there, we drop the Grim Wanderer down. Alright, down to 1 card in their hand now, just a Prosperous Innkeeper on board. Only good attack we have is the Lightfoot Rogue, but that guarantees we keep getting in for damage, or trade off with the Innkeeper to let the rest of our board get in and drop a Grim Wanderer. Alright, top deck war it is. Opponent just drawn some lands here, and looks like, unfortunately for our opponent, we've gotten exceptionally lucky with that Devoted Paladin draw, buffing our whole field to be large enough to attack into the Innkeeper, and that's going to prompt the concession. We are now 2-0. Round 3 now, another excellent start. Bunch of our 2-drop creatures and a plate armor to make sure they remain relevant throughout the game. Opponent starts with a Horde Robber, so we'll make sure to start with our 2 toughness creature to block that, rather than our 1 toughness rogue. Now, Valor Singer, unfortunately, a really good combo with Horde Robber, making it attacking as a 2/3 each turn. They are going to profit off the treasure tokens here. I think we hold on to plate armor for a later time. Drop down more creatures to threaten double blocks. Hired Hexblade from our opponent, so they get to draw a card off of that thanks to their treasure token. Really nice start from our opponent's 3-color deck here. Double block, trade 1 for 1 here. And a Lightfoot Rogue from our opponent. Things are looking pretty sketchy here. Valor Singer's putting in a lot of work. Now Valor Singer's the most likely attack. Just make it a 3/3 and attack in. We could only double block. Although Goblin Javelineer is also great. Does a damage to whatever blocks it. So that trades into our Paladin as well. Wow, yeah, this is really rough. Quite on the back foot here. See if a 4/4 can't stabilize us here. Gonna have to draw straight gas after this, though. Because that's kind of all we've got left. A single 4/4. We can make it a single 7/7, but still, it's gonna be 1 creature. This is suspicious. This is super suspicious. Green, red, what can they have here? 3 damage to Paladin? We'll take 2, we're at 23. Targnar is the play. That is super rough. Targnar can double up its power when it attacks. So they can make it big enough to attack into the Paladin still. Do we outrace our opponent? Highly doubt it. Because of Valor Singer's ability, they have 3, 4, 5, 6, so they do have pack tactics, which means +1 to everything again. So 7, 8, 9. Minimum of 9 damage plus doubling Targnar's power toughness. We definitely don't outrace our opponent. They do 9 without even spending mana. We do 7. But now Plundering Barbarian to destroy our equipment. The plate armor here. Game is looking very bad for us. There's a Grim Wanderer for whenever we get a block off. Alright, let's see the 3 damage burn spell here. Is it Rave Enfeeblement? No, that'd be -4/-4 because it's a white creature. Magic Missile, the 3 damage burn spell. Valor Singer's unblockable now. There's more lands for us. We're down to 13. Probably should have blocked Targnar instead of the 3/2. The benefit to blocking the 3/2 is if they don't have something, then we kill it and don't lose our creature. The downside is that Targnar would have been a better creature to kill in a trade. Well, they've got a Hill Giant Herdgorger 2 here. I'm out. Here we are, round 4, 2-1 here. Lightfoot Rogue, Vampire Spawn as our first creatures. Nice Dancing Sword to suit up. Definitely like the hand here. Opponent on mono green so far with a Druid class. So they gain a life when they play their lands. And once they start leveling that up, they can play additional lands each turn. Try to ramp into a big creature. If nothing else, ramp into the level 3 of the Druid class. So green-red from our opponent, they now play a Sylvan Shepherd, which does stop the Paladin from attacking unless we throw a Dancing Sword onto it. Which, sure, we don't get to play a creature if we do this, but puts a 4/3 lifelinker onto this board, so I feel like it's still worth it. That's a huge life swing. Hit them for 4 and gain 4. A second Druid class from our opponent. Very nice. They're going to be gaining a lot of life off of their landfall triggers. Sylvan Shepherd gaining life whenever it attacks. Kind of stem the bleeding here. Dragon's Fire to kill the Paladin. Want to be able to equip this Dancing Sword to other cards or have a 2/1 flyer? I think I would rather equip it to other cards still. Now we go Vampire Spawn and equip the sword to it. I think the general strat with Dancing Sword is probably to just keep it as an equipment until you run out of other creatures, and then it just makes sure that when you run out of creatures, you've still got a 2/1 flyer as a backup. But generally, probably best to keep it as the equipment for a while. So these Druid classes are going to be really threatening, because they are both going to activate soon enough. One of them is level 2 already, so next turn they can spend 5, have a 6/6 land. Kind of scary. Luckily we can just double block 2 times in a row thanks to our devoted paladins. Can can probably just outrace them if they attack. Yeah, they're not even going to attack. So I guess that's the problem. It's like, sure, we could double block if they send in, but now we can't attack in if they don't. So we probably get a Lightfoot Rogue down, and then we equip... Try to get that big enough to attack in without dying to the Shepherd to force them to trade off with one of their big creatures. So Lightfoot Rogue's a definite, but I think we Cloister Gargoyle first and go ahead and scry. See if we can set up some good plays. Another Shambling Gas, don't think that's going to be advantageous to us. Just play our Lightfoot Rogue and pass. So if we get a 6th mana, we can play Devoted Paladin. That makes Lightfoot Rogue a 3/2. Okay, well now we can't because we have to sack a land. Yeah, we don't have anything better to sack but a land here. Okay, so my idea is not going to pan out here. The idea was Devoted Paladin gives Lightfoot Rogue +1/+1 the turn we play it to make it a 3/2, and we could also equip the sword if we had an additional mana up to make it 3 toughness, so the Shepherd couldn't block it that turn. That would get us at least one Lightfoot Rogue attack in without worrying about the Sylvan Shepherd. Looks like it's going to be a top deck war here. Yeah, I mean, we can equip the Paladin now, but then it's 6 power and the Forest is a 7/7 now. So, top deck where it is. See who draws removal first to try to break through this board state. Well, there we go. Plundering Barbarian from our opponent. Blow up the Dancing Sword. That is a big problem with equipment in this format. Ooh. Never mind, we're all good then. Actually pretty fine with them blowing up the Cloister Gargoyle, because that card's never gonna... We don't make it through a dungeon in this deck. So I think the Dancing Sword's definitely a lot better for us. But I was gonna say, that is a big problem with the equipment in this format, is just how main deckable the artifact and enchantment removal is. Mainly Plundering Barbarian is an incredibly main deckable card, because you can just play it as a 3 mana 2/2, get a treasure, and be happy with it. But then you can also blow up an artifact with it, if you are playing against good equipment. And then the Cursed Idol, very similar, where you can just get that treasure token, venture into the dungeon when your opponent doesn't have a good artifact or enchantment, but when they do, you should blow that right up. Alright, so they've got a couple 7/7 lands now. Still not that worried about them getting sent in, just worried about them on blocks, and now we do have a Grim Bounty at least. Blows up one of them. Still not enough to really break through. But still probably good enough. I'm supposed to slam it down. Blow up the mountain to keep them off any more double red cards like the Earth Cult Elemental. Now Lightfoot Rogue can't attack in without trading to one of the 2 power creatures, so probably move the sword. Actually, because we blew up a land, we can move it to a Paladin, and that's big enough to trade into one of their 6/6s, so we send that in. Trade our 4/4 up into a 6/6 here. Keep the sword around for sure. Slap it onto another Devoted Paladin in case they don't hit a land here. They probably will. That forest is probably going to be a 7/7. Another Druid class, good lord. Alright, Druid class number 3. The trifecta. Oh, +2 Mace, what a draw. Can make our Devoted Paladin a 7 toughness creature on the attack here. Force them to double block to kill it. They do still have a good block here, though. They could block with their Forest and the Sylvan Shepherd, and they only lose the Forest if that happens. Hunter's Mark. Very sad time for us. Wow, that's super bad. Excellent removal from our opponent. We have +4, +3 to any creature later. Still definitely good enough. I don't think we turn the sword into a flyer here. What now? So now we're facing a big old forest and another big old forest from the 3rd druid class. We'll just suit up our biggest blocker. Bullet. 3/3 that gets a +1/+1 counter during their end step if a creature died. Another vampire spawn, not bad. 3 mana to equip the +2 mace. We can make this vampire spawn a 6/6, which trades into the forest. Please, no more tricks, my friend. They could triple block and then we kill the Sylvan Shepherd and the Bullet. Also pretty good. Drop another vampire spawn, so we basically have another 6/6 at the ready in the future. And again, anytime that our board state looks small enough that they want to attack in, we'll just crack back at them. We've got a much higher life total. Just take the 6 or 7. Alright, leveling up the druid class to set up for the next forest. To become another 6/6 there. And they drop a Battlecry Goblin as well. 4 mana to equip both, make the vampire spawn a 6/6. And now the only way they kill it is by trading off the forest. They can't do any double blocks anywhere. Seems good to me. And then whenever this vampire spawn dies, we can suit up the Lightfoot Rogue. And even if it isn't high enough power to take down their land, it'll have Death Touch. And high enough toughness that it trades into either both of their ground creatures or, well, both of their regular creatures or their 1 land. Either way. And this is wild. We are consistently, thanks to our equipment, pulling off, like, trading our creatures up into bigger stuff of theirs, or like 2-for-1 trades where we kill 2 of their small creatures, but our opponent is still keeping up here. Precipitous Drop's a pretty good draw. Get a 1/1 goblin out of that, which is a big deal when you have equipment like we do. Dancing Sword onto the rogue, and it's a 6/4, so they can double block with the 2 ground creatures or block with just the mountain. So if we Precipitous Drop, we can make sure they can't double block on the ground. Is that worth it? I think it is. I think it's worth doing that rather than holding on to it. And we get the Goblin token for another creature to suit up with the +4, +3 later on. 6/4 Death Touch coming in. It's just going to hit them. They are down to 8 now. I think I'm going to just leave this all equipped in case we draw like a 5-drop like a Devoted Paladin. We could end up moving stuff over and then not having the mana to move it back over and still cast everything we want to cast. Tiger Tribe Hunter. From our opponent, they can attack in with 6 power of creatures, and if they do, they sack one of their creatures to deal damage equal to its power to something else. They have to sacrifice another creature. So they would have to sack the mountain to kill the rogue, in which case they might as well just trade on a block here. So we probably just attack in, trade into the hunter. Although if we do that, then we no longer have a Death Toucher to attack into their mountain. So if we just move over and make our goblin a 4/3 instead, we can attack in with that, and the only way they can kill that, or it's a 5/4, not a 4/3, the only way they can kill that is trading the hunter into a 1/1 here, basically. Or they take 5. So yeah, now they've traded that off, and then we can just move things back over to the rogue. So that's ready to attack into the mountain next turn. We are just really showing off the power of equipment with this deck. But our opponent, yet again, is just keeping up so well. Just a great green-red Deuter's deck. So we can double block the Lightfoot Rogue now with multiple small creatures. Which means, again, we won't have attacks into the mountain. Although, I guess, if they don't draw another land, then we would with the Steadfast Paladin. Because we can make the Steadfast Paladin 6 power as well. I think I would rather play the Steadfast Paladin, suit up the Steadfast Paladin, and then attack in with that next turn. Then try to keep getting in with the Lightfoot Rogue now. Right, Armory Veteran. They need to block with at least 5 power, so they'd have to triple block. Minimus Containment can't kill their mountain, so it doesn't really matter here. All of their other creatures are pretty expendable. I guess we could use it on the Circle of the Moon Druid, because if we don't use it on Circle of the Moon Druid, they could triple block Steadfast Paladin with 2 2/2s and a 2/4, and we'd only kill 2 of the creatures, not 3 of the creatures. So their only way to kill Steadfast Paladin would be a triple block or a single block with the mountain. Might be worth it, but it also might be worth it to save Minimus Containment as a backup plan if our opponent draws another bomb of some kind. I feel like it's worth the Minimus Containment on the Circle of the Moon Druid. It makes their blocks really bad. Really bad choices here. Nice, so yeah, we force them into the triple block here to keep their land around. Again, just constantly trading up or trading into multiple blockers, thanks to all these equipment. Now we reconfigure onto the Lightfoot Rogue. I guess not reconfigure. We'll be seeing reconfigure soon enough when Kamigawa arrives. So they hit another land here, so the mountain is a 7/7, so super glad that we have spent all of the extra mana and energy just keeping this Lightfoot Rogue around so that we can still attack in once the mountain's a 7/7, because we're still attacking with Death Touch. They go down to 5, we pass turn. I guess we could spend the time moving all the equipment to gas and then moving it back, but feels unnecessary. 7 damage here now from the Lightfoot Rogue. They go to 1 life. Play our swamp, pass the turn. Another land, they gain a life. The mountain's really big, but now they are forced into chump blocking the Lightfoot Rogue, and we drew our Borea Pegasus to find immediate lethal, sending the rogue into the sky, prompting the concession from our opponent. Wow, I cannot wait to play with the Reconfigure cards in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. If you haven't heard about Reconfigure yet, they are these small little artifact creatures, but they're artifact equipment creatures, which means that, you know, say you have a 1-mana 1/1 that deals a damage to your opponent whenever it's blocked, it'll have a Reconfigure ability for 2, where you can just equip it to another creature to give that creature +1/+1 and make it so that creature deals the damage to the opponent whenever blocked. I think those cards are all going to play extremely well because you just play them early game, get in with their little chip 1 damage, and then later on you just start stacking your creatures together to make sure that, again, just like we did here, our smaller creatures are trading up into our opponent's bigger creatures. They're just punching above their weight level. Really nice game. I believe we are 3-1 now. All right, here we are, round 5, another excellent curve, a 1, 2, and 3 curve potentially, if we can hit mana. Wow, yeah, if we curve out, this hand's insane. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Counting for idiots. Counting for dummies, whatever the book series is called. Kalain, Reclusive Painter, turn 2 from our opponent. So our opponent is off to the races with the Rakdos Treasure deck. Definitely worried about that. If it was pretty open in their draft, they are likely to have an exceptional deck, as it is the best archetype in the format, and Kalain, one of the best cards in the archetype, makes it so every creature they play with treasure mana comes in with a +1/+1 counter. So Vampire Spawn, instead of a 3 mana 2/3 that drains us for 2 life, it's a 3 mana 3/4 that drains us for 2 life. A really good deal. Do hit a land here so we can Rave Enfeeblement at least, but even Rave Enfeeblement doesn't make any attacks good here. I think we just have to drop a Vampire Spawn and pass. Improvised Weaponry to kill the Forsworn Paladin, plus get a treasure token they can now use to cast their next creature, to make sure that one comes in with a +1/+1 counter as well. Again, we don't have good Rave Enfeeblement attacks because it only gives -1 toughness, so the Vampire Spawn can still block with 3 toughness and just not die. So like if we attack both, we'd be trying to kill Kalain, but they would just like let the Paladin through and kill the Vampire Spawn, and then we'd have to use Rage just to make sure one of our creatures doesn't die. It wouldn't even be a removal spell. So drop a spawn, pass the turn. Unfortunately, Kalain looks like they're going to go off here. Demogorgon's Clutches. Not the worst Mind Rot I've been hit by. We're pretty far from 5 mana, and this Ray of Enfeeblement, as I've been saying, is not looking like it's going to do anything in this matchup. So, not the worst. Discard 2. That being said, still not in a great position, regardless, just from the Kalain synergies going on. The Battlecry Goblin is, I think, the only card we're that scared about now, because there are other stuff we can double block decently well currently. So Battlecry Goblin, the only card on the board that's kind of scary here. If they get another red source, they can Fire Breathe a lot into this, potentially spit out some 1/1s. But with just one red source, we can still just double block that with a couple 2/3s. So for now, not actually under that much pressure. Maybe if they don't have any removal, we can drop down an Arborea Pegasus, get a good lifelink attack in with a Steadfast Paladin, and then just start shredding them in the sky. That being said, we will have to hit another mana to get that Pegasus down, so for now, still just going to be staring at our opponent here. Go for a Battlecry trigger here to get a 1/1 Goblin token out. They can Fire Breathe that into a 2/3 with Battlecry Goblin's ability, giving all the Goblins +1/+0. So they make it a 2/1. I think I said 2/3 for some reason. 2/1. So 2/3 still blocks it well, even after it's been buffed. We can double block the Hobgoblin Captain, and they can only kill one of the Paladins. Although we can also just double block the Battlecry Goblin, which is probably the better kill here. They can only kill one of these cards because they make it 4 power. We have 5 toughness. I think these are our best blocks. Take 3, get rid of Battlecry Goblin, lose 1 creature here. Any tricks from our opponent will be pretty good for them. Not absolutely disastrous for us because they're just taking down like 2/2s and 2/3s here, but they'll be good. So the dragons fire to make sure the Battlecry Goblin's still around. Now we get to drop our Grim Wanderer, and we hit the land to drop our Borea Pegasus. Get that lifelink swing in the sky. Like holding up the Grim Wanderer because it single-handedly trades for that Battlecry Goblin. Unlike the rest of our creatures where we would have to double block it. So that's why I didn't want to just hit for 6 in the sky there. I would like to take down this Battlecry Goblin. And I just realized I'm super glad I didn't block the Hobgoblin Captain last time, because the Battlecry Goblin buffs that as well to make it a 4-power first striker. Would be super duper bad. Critical hit for double strike here. Just keeping the combat tricks coming. Another vampire spawn though, so we'll just keep replacing our stuff that gets killed. They're down to 12, taking 2 a turn in the sky. If they don't have any more vampire spawns coming up, then they're on a 5-turn clock. And we're still at 21 here. Unexpected Windfall. Discard that land to draw 2. Pretty great there. Dig for some more stuff to play. Thanks to the treasure tokens, they can buff their goblins twice here, make Battlecry Goblin a 5-power attacker. Still gets double blocked by 2 spawns, and we only lose 1. Plundering Barbarian it is, with 2 treasure tokens spent on it from Kalain, making that a 4/4. Another card we can double block pretty fine. And if we hit a mana, we can just single block it with a Devoted Paladin. Really liking how our Borea Pegasus looks on this board state. Attack in, only have the ability to buff 1 time. Make the Battlecry Goblin 4 power total. We lose 1 creature here, lose no creatures there. They have no tricks anymore, they're out of cards in hand. Go for no buffs so they can keep that treasure token around for later. We do draw into the Devoted Paladin mana, which is excellent. Hit for an additional damage from our Borea Pegasus and have a 4/4 to trade into their 4/4. And they're just on their top decks here. Just drawing off the top like we are. So if neither player draws another card all game, then we just win from our Borea Pegasus. So it is all down to who draws better here. Because if you don't take into account card draws, we've got the win from Pegasus. Just another trick, maybe? Heavily contemplating the attack, they decide just not to go for it at all. Minimus Containment is the draw. I think I would rather hold on to that in case they draw a flyer than use it on anything on their current board state, because as we just saw, they didn't even want to attack here, and they're on a 3-turn clock to our flyer. That being said, that was when we had a Pegasus up to block as well, so that could impact it a little bit. But 20 life to 5 life, I feel like we're gonna be fine. If we can just keep this Pegasus on board. So we're hoping they don't draw removal. And now we have an answer if they do draw a flyer. Ooh, Grim Wanderer is a little scary. Pretty sure we still outrace it. Kill them in 3 attacks. At 20 life here, we can definitely survive to attack 2 more times here. We need to survive 2 of their attacks. Gelatinous Cube. That'll do it. Get rid of the Arborea Pegasus. We can Minimus Containment the cube, but if we Minimus Containment the cube, it's still on the board. which means the Pegasus is still exiled. We don't have anything to return things from our graveyard to our hand, so we let this resolve. We don't sack it to the Ghoul here. In case we draw Grim Bounty, that's our out now, and we have to draw it right now or they can exile the Pegasus to the cube. Again, Minimus Containment just isn't going to work on the cube. They exile it till this leaves the battlefield. It's still on the battlefield if it's a treasure token. So unless we can somehow get them to sacrifice the cube treasure by accident, don't have a way to save the Pegasus. That being said, our opponent being at 3 life here. Opponent being at 3 life here is huge. Right? Like if we just take this and then we Minimus Containment, I don't know, their Vampire Spawn, I guess, then we attack all 3. They're forced to block Sepulchre Ghoul or they die, and then they take 2 and go to 1. And then if we draw another Vampire Spawn, they die on the spot, but I think I've drawn all my spawns. I think I only have 3 in here. I think we take this because of how threatening our attacks are with our removal spell in hand. Grim Bounty off the top, like I was saying. Blow that up. Give our 2 power creature flying, attack for the lethal 3 damage. The incredible top deck. Oh my god. I would have been interested to see how that game goes had we drawn something else. I think if we drew just another decent card outside of Grim Bounty, we'd still have a good chance there, because we can put them down to like 1 life on the attack, Minimus Containmenting a blocker there. But it would be really sketchy, because then they could crack back for lethal, I guess. Yeah, no, we probably would have died if we didn't have Grim Bounty there, so what a top deck there. I think that we are 4-1 now, thanks to that. Just massive luck, Zachary. Yep, 4-1 here. So a nice record wherever we go from here. Well, we have found a stone cold mulligan. And this is certainly much better. I'm going to get rid of the Grim Wanderer. Just does not consistently come out early. Ooh, Shambling Gas now to go with the Sepulchre Ghoul. Don't mind if I do. The 1-2 punch. So our opponent goes Evolving Wilds into a Plains, and then a turn 2 Forest into Intrepid Outlander. Pretty annoying card there, a 2-3 blocker, so the Shambling Ghast can't get in. The Precipitous Drop won't kill it. And then a Celestial Unicorn from our opponent. I'm just going to go ahead and Precipitous Drop that before they gain any life. Green-white is kind of the life gain color pair in this format, even though it's usually black-white. Green-white in the Forgotten Realms. Get our Scry off. Don't need the 5th land here, we'll dump that on bottom. And I'll trade our Shambling Ghast into the Intrepid Outlander if they want to do that. Alright. Shambling Ghast will trade up into the Intrepid Outlander still, thanks to Sepulchre Ghoul, which is quite nice because we also get to keep a treasure token here, rather than using the -1/-1. Priest of Ancient Lore, excellent card. 3 mana for a 2/1 that gains a life and draws a card when they play it. So just immediately replaces itself in value. And then if it trades off into any of our creatures, our opponent just gets a 2-for-1 because they've drawn a card and killed one of our creatures off of that 1 card. So I don't even want to attack into that thing, really, because we just trade our Paladin into it if I sack it to the Ghoul. Half-Elf Monk. That's going to be a pretty annoying card. I don't know if it's annoying enough to Grim Bounty, but tapping down our creatures. Gonna be a thing. Ooh, Forsworn Paladin. That's a really good mana sink now. Make sure any of our creatures can trade up into that half-elf monk. We can't give any extra toughness, unfortunately, but we can definitely give +2 power at a pretty cheap rate. Really nice draw, it looks like. It's gonna be really good with Steadfast Paladin. If Steadfast Paladin is like blocking a 2/2, I would still just dump a bunch of mana in there to gain a bunch of life. If we have nothing else to do, instant speed. Blink Dog, a double striker that can phase out. Protect itself from removal, potentially. So if they slap a bunch of auras, equipment, +1/+1 counters on that, that'll stay on it, even when it phases out. So pretty scary card for them to start suiting up. Don't think it's scary enough to Grim Bounty it. Because if they want to start putting a bunch of counters or something on it, they're going to have to commit mana to that, and they probably won't have the 4 mana up to phase it out if they do. So, I think we're fine. Fine with the Blink Dog just chilling for now. Ranger class, that is not fine whatsoever. That is a bomb rare if I've ever seen one. Very constructed playable card. It is a 2/2 creature plus a +1/+1 counter on every creature they have that attacks. Well, once per turn they put a counter on an attacking creature, plus they get to start casting creatures from the top of their library, which can dig through their deck really quickly. Be a really good card draw engine there, and overwhelm your opponent with card draw. So here's where our lack of Dawnbringer Clerics might kill us this game. Unless we can draw a Minimus Containment or a Moonblessed Cleric to pick up the Minimus Containment, because we really want to get rid of that Ranger class. And we'd prefer to do it sometime soon. Attack with the Priest of Ancient Lore, make it a 3/2. Send the Paladin on it here. Just take 3. Just take 3 for now. Six mana. If we cast Grim Bounty, then we still have 3 up thanks to the treasure token that it makes. Plus, we actually have a 7th because we have a treasure token currently too. So we can blow up Blink Dog and then attack in. Trying to buff things up. I think we can already just attack in decently with like Vampire Spawn here. I think we'll just do that. They have to double block to kill it. If they do, we'll kill 2 of their cards. So they're just going to take it here. So we'll just slam 6 damage in. Pass the turn. They're down to 13. That is something. Alright, opponent, what do you got? 6 mana up, 3 cards in hand. Green Dragon, alright, that makes all of their creatures death touch this turn. essentially. And leaves them with a 4/4 flyer. We'll have to Grim Bounty that big old flyer. Blink Dog on the attack here because of the Death Touch First Strike combo, where it blows up our creature before our creature gets to deal damage back to it. Would love it if our opponent just gets real aggressive here and just like attacks all, but looks like just the Blink Dog, so we'll just take the Blink Dog damage. Blow up a green dragon. Potentially find an attack in here. Ooh, there's Moonblessed Cleric to shut off the Ranger class in the future, and then that kind of deals with almost everything we're worried about. If I attack with Vampire Spawn now, however, they can just block with Priest. We don't really accomplish anything. So we're kind of out of attacks. And Blink Dog's a 2/2 Death Toucher now. It's going to be a 3/3. I'm sorry, 2/2 Double Striker. It's going to be a 3/3 Double Striker when they attack with it next time. So if we kill Green Dragon, then Blink Dog just starts killing us. But if we kill Blink Dog, then Green Dragon starts killing us. Not great. Not a lovely place to be. I guess we have to kill Blink Dog, because if we play Moonblessed Cleric and reveal that we have Minimus Containment on top, they're going to hold up the mana to teleport Blink Dog. We're probably getting to a position here where we have to kill these two creatures rather than kill a Ranger class with the Containment. So I feel like we might have to kill Blink Dog with Grim Bounty, and then grab Minimus Containment to kill Green Dragon next turn. But then we just lose to them drawing too many cards off of the Ranger class's third ability. Have to find some way to like pressure them fast enough to kill them. So maybe we do kill Green Dragon. It's less blockers here. We send in more creatures, threatening to buff. I mean, they trade with Priest, they trade with Wolf. It's not like these block particularly well though anyway. See if we can't get some damage in here. I think against this Ranger class, we're sort of just forced into the quick game, because if we play the long game, they just outdraw us. So at least here we're clearing a good chunk of their board. They're down to 2 creatures now. Pick up our Minimus Containment. So they'll hold up that Blink Dog mana. Potentially. They have 7 mana up here. They don't have enough mana to upgrade Ranger class and teleport a Blink Dog. At least. It's 4 mana to do either of those things. Tap something down with the Half-Elf Monk, maybe? They are eyeing our creatures. I'm going to send the Half-Elf Monk in now that we don't have mana up to buff. They're putting a counter on the Half-Elf Monk then, instead of the Double Striker? Otherwise we can just block the Monk with a 3/2. They have to throw another combat trick to kill the Cleric. Yeah, so attack with that is a 2/5. I believe we just take 6 here and go to 11. Draw our Minimus Containments. See what we can do from that point on. I guess we can double block Blink Dog with these 2. But we would 2-for-1 trade into it. Again, like we could theoretically then 2-for-1 trade there, Minimus Containment there, that's all the creatures gone. But then again, they just... like an empty board state's just advantageous to them because of Ranger class.
plus, technically, if they're like really smart about it, if we go for a double block on Blink Dog, they can first strike like this away, and then they can just phase it out. And we don't even kill it. They just kill one for free. Because they can do that at any time. Wow, Blink Dog's really showing up this game. Not a card I see a lot. But it's quite a good dog here. Quite a good boy. See what's going on here. 4 mana, they are leveling up the Ranger class. No teleport mana for Blink Dog then. But they do have a creature immediately on top, Steadfast Paladin. The lifelinker too. Oh, that's rough. We have a treasure token at least, so with Forsworn Paladin's ability, we kill Half-Elf Monk guaranteed, whatever it blocks. Do we even just contain the Paladin now? Just full on? Cross our fingers, hope to use Forsworn Paladin's fire-breathing ability to kill them in 2 attacks? I honestly think that's the best we've got here. I guess they could use Half-Elf Monk to tap one of our creatures here, but that's like the same as blocking one. Alright. Hit them for 8, or kill the Half-Elf Monk and hit them for 3. Block the Sepulchre Ghoul, they take 4, we kill Half-Elf Monk. They have 2 mana up here. Do they have a way to kill the ghoul still? Wow, yeah they do. Blow up the ghoul, -5 damage. We're out of it then, for sure. It's gonna be an interesting, not that interesting, but it would have been a little exciting to be like, can we have our opponent dead draw off the Ranger class here, just hit lands or something and outrace this Blink Dog? But they have the removal spell intact too to just blow up the Sepulchre Ghoul so we don't even kill the Half-Elf Monk. Like, no shot here. Take 8 right now. Still have the Vigilant blocker down, plus I can tap down one of our creatures. Yeah, no shot. No shot. Half-Elf Monk taps down. Half-Elf Monk taps down the Menace creature here, goes to their turn, they tap down our other creature, and then we die because we don't have blockers. Dancing Sword doesn't change that at all. Still just tap down both. I guess we force them to tap down Moonblast Cleric if they want to tap something down here. It's possible. It's possible to find lethal here, right? No, it's +2/+0, not +3/+0, so Moonblast Cleric only hits for 7. So it is not possible to find lethal, which means we go to combat, they tap down, or at the end of turn they tap down, then they tap the other down later. Yeah, there's absolutely no way. I guess we just still stay in here and see if our opponent misplays. Can't even kill them if we attack both. Because it's 4/4, that's 8. They go to 1 life. They go to 1 life. Threaten to kill them with a combat trick. But there's no point to that, because then even if they accept the bluff and be like, Alright, you probably have a combat trick, so I should block to not die. Then I just die to Blink Dog because I don't have creatures untapped. So... Alright. Yeah, we just die here. I would be very, very surprised if our opponent doesn't realize they can just tap both our creatures. Gain some life. Okay, well, never mind. I guess we don't just die. I guess we do have another turn. Have to block both, though. If they spread the counters out this way, so yeah, they only have to tap one down anyways. So it doesn't matter that they missed a tap. Yep, that's game. Here we are in round 7 now, 4-2. Quite a bit of Magic played today. Kind of an awkward hand, but I am going to keep it. Both colors. We have our very late gameplay and our very early gameplay. Definitely need to draw the middle ground here. 1-drops and a 5-drop, but we'll go for it here. The Shambling Ghast War has begun. It's the Spider-Man meme. Check for traps. Well, goodbye, Devoted Paladin. They have Doombladed our Paladin. And unfortunately, we're against Rakdos again. You hate to see it. Actually, just not going to give them the treasure token there. I guess the problem is now, if we block, they blow up both our ghasts. The Shambling Ghast Vampire Spawn Mirror meta is in the building. The board state's getting cluttered. It's time for the players to look deeply in each other's eyes while no one does anything. Plate Armor is actually just a really good draw. Never mind. My least favorite thing about this matchup, Plundering Barbarian, just completely nullifying anybody trying to play equipment. Such a rude card. Plate Armor would have been so big here, because then we just start suiting up one creature at a time and getting in, having an excellent, lovely day. But Plundering Barbarian just shows up. Just uses my picnic blanket as toilet paper. Well, we got a Grim Wanderer now. I mean, how do they kill that? Block, block, kill a ghast too. Block, block. Grim Wanderer's just solid here, right? Or a fireball. This works as well. I don't even know if we want to draw Minimus Containment right now. But I guess I will. Just have the revealed Minimus Containment. So our opponent knows what's coming when they play something scary. Round 2 of the big staring match. Send in Vampire Spawn, they just send in this, they just, or even, so that's not good. So like this happens, then we can't get in with anything else because Vampire Spawn keeps blocking. I guess we can Minimus Containment Vampire Spawn. If we want to get really bold, then we do have the board advantage to just go attack, attack, attack. Actually attack all, because the Shambling Gas trade into the Barbarian too. This might be dumb, but let's just speed the game up here. I don't really want to stare at my opponent all day long. So they kill both of our ghasts. Yeah, we killed Barbarian here. Top deck war, let's go. I've got the board advantage. Don't draw a bomb for me to minimus containment. Oh. Oh. Oh no. Oh god. I'm on the floor. I'm literally on the floor. Alright. I'm getting up. I'm getting up. Ow. My life is pain. Got the smallest shot ever. We did still get really aggressive with the minimus containment play. They are down to 7. Oh! Shoot GG me right now. That's 5 damage. That's not lethal. It's not lethal to you. That's not lethal to me. That's 5 damage. I mean, it's lethal to you next turn. No! The preemptive GG. Nom 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 nom. Ooh, baby! You ready to trade your Orcus into my 2 creatures? My 1 creature, because Forsworn Paladin's ability. Nice, yeah. That preemptive GG feeling real nice. I'll even pay with treasure. Because I'm loaded. No. I mean, we still have a treasure token for Forsworn Paladin to attack in. Actually, it's got Menace. We just win. It's got Menace. We need 6 mana to win. Wow, they had to roll a nat 20 to survive this turn. What is this game? Oh my god. Yeah, I guess we top deck a land, we still have it. Oh my god. Attack for 3 then, I guess. Wow, so if I didn't click so fast and just slam the orange button on our last attack, if we didn't pay with treasure, we'd have 1 more mana here and just win right now. I should have played the Mace and equipped it here instead. In case they draw, I don't know, 1 damage removal. Still got a 1/1 menace down with our opponent at 1 life. Wow. Brutal. Brutal game. Brutal way to end it. What a swingy back and forth there in the end. But it do be like that sometimes. That's Rakdos sack for you. 4-3 with the white-black equipment deck. Really nice stuff overall. Super fun deck. Super fun games in general. Had a pretty good time hopping back into this format the one time, but that is going to end today's video. We've got Kamigawa Neon Dynasty right around the corner this Thursday. I'm very excited for the set, and I will be drafting it and doing some sealeds of it right on launch day as always. So really looking forward to that. Super excited to jump in there. But until then, as always, I'd just like to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.